Am I the asshole for going no contact with my mom and husband after discovering they were cheating while I was undergoing IVF treatments? Hey, before we move on to the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thanks. It's strange how easy it is to miss something when you're trying so hard to see the best in people. That's how it started. That's how I stayed blind. For months, maybe years, I was so determined to believe I had a loving husband and a supportive mother that I ignored everything right in front of me. The lingering eye contact. The inside jokes I wasn't part of. The way they both got quiet when I entered the room. It all registered in the back of my mind. But I chalked it up to stress, paranoia, hormones, anything but what it really was. I met Jason when I was 23. He was 2 years older, worked in IT, and had the kind of calming presence that made you feel like things were under control even when they weren't. He wasn't flashy, he didn't try too hard. He made me feel safe. After years of walking on eggshells with my mother, that was exactly what I thought I needed. We got married when I was 26. Nothing extravagant. A small ceremony, some awkward dancing, and then we just got on with life. I was the planner, the responsible one. I tracked our finances, cooked, cleaned, organized every vacation we ever went on. Jason worked a lot and often stayed late, but I never questioned it. He was tired, I thought. Or maybe just one of those people who needed a lot of alone time. I gave him space. We started trying for a baby when I turned 30. That's when things got hard. I had 2 early miscarriages. The second one happened on Mother's Day. I still remember how Jason barely reacted. He held my hand for 5 minutes, said, "I'm sorry this keeps happening to you," and then went to mow the lawn. My mother, meanwhile, called to tell me she was sorry I couldn't give her a grandchild yet, but that I shouldn't mope because sadness messes with your hormones. I should have seen the warning signs then. Growing up, my mother was the type of woman who made everything about her. If I got an A, she'd talk about how much pressure she put on me. If I got sick, she'd tell people she felt drained by having to take care of me. She was never outright cruel, just self-absorbed, manipulative in subtle ways, and always obsessed with appearances. She was beautiful when I was a child. Blonde, sharp-featured, always done up like she was waiting for a modeling scout in the cereal aisle. And as she got older, her fear of fading seemed to twist her tighter every year. Botox, fillers, constant gym selfies. She once told me, "If you ever get fat, you're just giving your husband permission to cheat." I hated that she said things like that, but I never challenged her. I just nodded and stayed quiet. That's what I always did. Keep the peace. Be the good daughter. And then there was how she acted around Jason. At first, I thought she was just trying to bond with him. She'd compliment his shirts, laugh a little too hard at his jokes. Whenever she came over, she insisted on helping him with things, setting up the TV, figuring out his phone settings, even once standing on a ladder with him to install a ceiling fan, claiming she didn't trust me not to break my neck. I laughed it off. Jason seemed uncomfortable by her sometimes, and I took that as a good sign. I even thanked him once for tolerating my mom's theatrics. He just gave me a small smile and said, "She's definitely something." I thought that meant we were on the same team. When the fertility treatments began, I grew more withdrawn. The hormones wrecked me. I gained weight, my skin broke out, my mood swung like a wrecking ball. Jason was supportive distantly. He never yelled, never criticized. But he also never reached for my hand during ultrasounds, never cried with me, never really felt like he was in it with me. I figured that was just how some men are. He started spending more time, running errands, or helping your mom with her taxes, or dropping off something she ordered. At one point, I even joked that he saw her more than I did. He just smiled and said, "Well, you two are the most important women in my life." That line made me feel warm at the time. I hate that now. The first truly strange moment came during a family barbecue last fall. My mom brought out a pitcher of sangria and said, loudly, "Jason, I made this just how you like it, light on the brandy." Jason gave her this smirking look that felt off. I brushed it off. But then, when I went back inside to grab a serving spoon, I caught them standing in the hallway too close. Not touching, not whispering, but staring. It only lasted a second before they snapped apart. When I asked what was going on, Jason just said, "Your mom was telling me about her new water filter." I laughed. I laughed because the alternative was insane. And yet, something lodged in my stomach and didn't move for days. The final clue, the one that should have slapped me awake, happened about 3 weeks before everything fell apart. Jason had left his laptop open on the kitchen table. I never snooped. Not once in our entire marriage. But that day, I walked past and noticed a Facebook message open, the preview of a longer thread. It was from my mom. It read, "I wish you were here last night. The bed felt cold without you." I stopped walking. My pulse thudded in my ears. I don't even remember making the decision to open the full message thread. I just sat down and clicked. There were weeks, months of messages. They were joking, flirty, graphic. Some messages talked about things they did in my house when I wasn't home. One message from my mother, "We have to tell her soon. It's not fair to keep pretending." Jason's reply, "She's too fragile. Let's wait until she's more stable." That word broke something in me. Fragile. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I just closed the laptop, went upstairs, and sat in the dark. I didn't even know what I was waiting for. Maybe I thought if I was still long enough, the world would stop spinning. When he came home, I asked, "How's my mom?" He froze. That's when he knew. That's when I knew he knew I knew. Jason didn't even try to lie. That was the part that still wakes me up sometimes. How calm he was when he knew the secret was out. He blinked, shifted his weight, and then said, "You read the messages." I didn't answer. I just stared at him from the couch like I was waiting for a punchline that never came. He stepped forward, slowly, like he was approaching a scared animal. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," he said. "But maybe it's better that you know." That was it. No begging. No, it's not what it looks like. No panic. Just that calm, almost condescending tone like he was delivering bad news he expected me to take well. I felt something inside me collapse, but I kept my voice flat. "How long?" He looked away. "A little over a year." I think my stomach actually dropped. Not figuratively, I felt physically sick, like my body couldn't contain it. A year. They started sleeping together while I was still sobbing over pregnancy tests and scheduling hormone injections. While I was curled up on the bathroom floor trying to hold myself together, he was with her, my mother. The woman who gave birth to me. Who should have wanted to protect me. Who should have despised the very idea of hurting me like this. "She's in love with me," he said, like that made it more legitimate. "And I care about her. It's not just sex." I snapped then. "You care about her? She's my mother, Jason. She's supposed to be dead to you the second that thought even crossed your mind." He didn't flinch. He looked sad, like he pitied me. "You've been so focused on getting pregnant. It felt like everything else disappeared. You weren't really here." I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw the skin off my face. "So you slept with my mom?" "She was there," he said. "We connected." That's when I slapped him. I'd never laid a hand on him in 10 years of marriage, but something in me gave way. He took it. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't fight back. Just stood there with this pathetic wounded look like I had wronged him. I told him to get out. He didn't argue. He picked up his keys and left. Like we were having a mild disagreement about groceries. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her. I didn't want to answer. I knew what she was going to say, but something made me swipe up. Her voice was soft, almost soothing. "Sweetheart, I guess he told you." I couldn't speak. I just listened. I wanted to hear how far she'd go, how deep she'd dig the knife. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't want it to happen this way. You know I never planned to hurt you." I still said nothing. She sighed. "Look, I know this is a shock, but maybe it's time we're all just honest with each other. Jason and I, we didn't expect to fall in love. But it happened, and we didn't want to live a lie anymore." I finally found my voice. "You're my mother. I'm also a woman," she replied, like that excused anything. "And I deserve to be happy." I laughed. It wasn't a sane laugh. More like a splintering. "You deserve to be happy? With my husband? He's not just yours anymore," she said, her tone tightening. "He has feelings too. And so do I. We're not monsters. We're just people who found something real." I hung up. She texted a few minutes later. "I hope you can find the strength to be an adult about this. We want to stay in your life." That sentence made my hands go numb. Be an adult about this. Like I was throwing a tantrum. Like I was the unstable one for reacting to the most disgusting betrayal I could imagine. The next few days were a blur. I barely slept. I couldn't eat. I cried so hard my throat went raw. I started shaking uncontrollably in the shower. Every corner of my house felt tainted. My bed, the kitchen, the bathroom, all places he'd probably texted her from. Maybe even brought her into. I called my father. He and my mom divorced when I was 15. He's a quiet man. Detached. But I thought maybe he'd understand. Maybe he'd be furious. protective. When I told him what happened, he was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Your mother always did whatever she wanted. That's it." I asked, "What do you want me to do?" He replied, "I'm not surprised. It's disgusting, but that's her problem now." He sounded tired, like I was bothering him. I felt like a screaming child holding out a bleeding hand, and everyone around me just nodded and walked away. When I tried to explain things to mutual friends, I got mixed reactions. Some were shocked. Others gave that awful pause, the one where you know they're trying not to take sides. A few said things like, "Are you sure it wasn't just a one-time thing? Or maybe your mom was just lonely." I stopped reaching out. 2 weeks later, my cousin sent me a link to an Instagram post. My mother and Jason, smiling, holding hands on a beach. The caption, "Sometimes life leads you to unexpected places. Grateful for second chances." I felt like I was watching someone desecrate my grave. Then came the wedding announcement. Not a joke. Not even 6 months after everything blew up. A pastel-colored card sent to my email. Yes, email, with the header, "You're invited," and a picture of them under a tree. They had the audacity to ask me to attend, to celebrate love, to move forward as a family. I didn't respond. That's when the messages started coming in from relatives. Some passive-aggressive. "It would mean a lot to your mom if you showed up." Others just cruel. "Don't ruin this for her. Life's short." I even got one from Jason's sister. "They know it's complicated, but they're asking for grace." That's mature. Maybe you could try meeting them halfway. I wanted to burn every bridge. I wanted to disappear. But something deeper started to stir. A voice in my head, quiet at first, began to whisper, "They don't get to do this to you. They don't get to ruin you." And that voice started to grow. I didn't go to their wedding. I don't even know if it happened in a church or on a beach or in someone's backyard, and I don't care. I blocked my mother and Jason on everything. I took down all the pictures, boxed up my wedding album, deleted our joint social media accounts, and changed my number. The house we had shared was sold within 2 months. I couldn't stand the idea of sleeping in a place where they had probably touched each other while I was out buying groceries or sobbing over a failed embryo transfer. I didn't tell anyone where I moved. I used the proceeds from the house sale, most of which I was entitled to, legally, since I was the one who had paid off more of the mortgage, to relocate to another state. New job, new apartment, new name on the mailbox. I even dyed my hair. I wanted to vanish from their narrative. I didn't want to be the bitter ex-wife and abandoned daughter lurking at the edge of their storybook ending. For a while, I was numb. Not healing, just empty. But something strange happened in the stillness. I started to come back to myself. The job I landed was with a mid-sized architecture firm, less pay than I used to make, but the environment was peaceful, professional. No gossip, no whispering, just people who minded their business and let me do my work. I made one friend there, a woman named Naomi, and I didn't tell her anything about my past for almost a year. When I finally did, she just looked at me and said, "Jesus Christ, you need a memoir." It was the first time I laughed about it. A bitter, cathartic laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. She was the one who convinced me to start documenting things. At first, I just journaled, wrote down memories when they came to me. But slowly, I started turning it into a full timeline, a private archive. I dug through old emails, messages, receipts. I even found hotel booking confirmations Jason had used during work trips, ones that coincided perfectly with the messages from my mother. That's when the idea started forming. Not revenge in the dramatic sense. No screaming confrontations. No social media exposés. Just a little truth. Served cold. I found out they had started a small couples therapy podcast together. I am not kidding. Apparently, my mother believed her relationship with Jason was proof that healing from past pain was possible, and they had built a tiny audience of bitter divorcees and midlife crisis victims who lapped it up. They marketed themselves as a couple who overcame complicated beginnings and found radical honesty with each other. I couldn't believe it. They even monetized it, took donations, offered advice sessions. My mother had the nerve to call herself a spiritual relationship coach. I created a throwaway email and sent an anonymous tip to a few media pages that specialized in exposing online grifters. I didn't say much. Just linked a few receipts, screenshots of the Facebook messages they sent while I was still married to him. I added one of their podcast clips where they lied about the timeline of their love story and claimed they hadn't seen each other romantically until a full year after my divorce. And then I let the universe take it from there. 3 weeks later, their podcast page went dark. Turns out one of their fans had been a jilted woman whose husband left her for her own cousin. She wasn't just angry, she was online angry. She did a deep dive, cross-referenced wedding dates, called out their lies publicly. Other people picked it up. One influencer made a TikTok series titled, "When Your Stepfather Is Also Your Ex-Husband." It got over 500,000 views. They tried to do damage control. My mother posted a long-winded apology video in which she painted herself as a tragic figure who just wanted love and acceptance. She cried on camera, wore a beige sweater, said I struggled with mental health, and that my jealousy of their happiness led me to sabotage their journey. That video made things worse. People dragged her for trying to weaponize motherhood and mental illness to justify her betrayal. Someone found her old Pinterest board full of mother-daughter goals, quotes, and reposted them under the caption, "Ma'am, be serious." Jason lost his job. Apparently, the company he worked for didn't love the optics. My mother started offering discounted coaching sessions, but clients ghosted her. Their little empire crumbled. And I didn't have to say a word. Months passed. I kept living my life. I wasn't fixed, trauma doesn't work like that, but I wasn't broken anymore either. I went on walks. I hosted small dinners with Naomi. I started dating again, casually, on my terms. Men who didn't remind me of anyone. Men who didn't compare me to my mother. And then came the final twist. My mother showed up at my apartment. I wasn't even sure how she found me. I hadn't given my address to anyone we knew in common. But there she was, standing at my door, thinner, pale, hair scraped back into a bun. No makeup. No smile. I opened the door a crack. She said, "Please. I need to talk to you." I didn't let her in. I just stared. "I lost everything," she said. "They canceled us. Jason's angry all the time. He drinks. I don't know who he is anymore." I didn't respond. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, real ones this time. I made a mistake. I let the silence stretch. Let it hang there between us like the weight it was. She added, "I miss you." And that's when I smiled. Not cruelly. Just, finally. "No, Mom. You miss what I gave you. You miss being adored. You miss being the sinner. But you never missed me." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I'm trying to be better," she whispered. "I hope you are," I said. "But you won't do it here. Not in my life." Then I closed the door. I stood behind it for a long time, hand on the knob, heart pounding. She didn't knock again. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Months went by without another word from her. I thought that was the end of it. Then came the email. It was from Jason. Subject line, "Please read. It's not what you think." I almost deleted it on sight. But some sick curiosity made me open it. Maybe I wanted to see what pathetic excuse he'd come up with. Maybe I needed the reminder that I'd made the right decision. His message was long, rambly, poorly written. But the highlights? He and my mother had separated. According to him, it started with money. Once their little influencer bubble burst, they were both unemployed, and neither of them had any real backup plan. Jason had to take a job delivering furniture. My mother tried to go back to the massage therapy clinic she used to work at, but word had gotten around. Clients canceled. Coworkers iced her out. They moved in with one of her friends temporarily, and that friend kicked them out after 2 weeks. They were broke, bitter, and fighting constantly. Jason claimed my mother had become controlling and emotionally abusive, and that she accused him of ruining her life. He said she threw things at him during fights, that she blamed him for the podcast disaster, that she drank too much and went on long rants about how everyone always betrays her. He painted himself as the victim, of course. That's what narcissists do. Then he got to the real reason he emailed. He wanted to apologize. He said he realized now how deeply he had hurt me, that it wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal of everything we had built, that I was the most loyal person he'd ever known, and he had taken that for granted. He admitted that the spark with my mother was mostly fantasy, that once the thrill wore off, he realized he'd traded a partner for someone who saw him as a trophy, and then discarded him the second the attention dried up. And then he said it. "I miss you. I miss us. I don't expect forgiveness, but if there's ever a chance to talk, I'd like that." I sat there staring at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part of me wanted to laugh. He was crawling back, not because he loved me, but because he had nowhere else to go. He saw me as soft, as someone who might take pity. He thought enough time had passed that the old patterns would kick in. Instead of responding, I forwarded the email to a burner account I used to save reminders of why I cut people off. Then I blocked him again. A week later, Naomi and I were having lunch, and I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, then grinned. You know, most people just leave their toxic exes. You humiliated yours so hard he came crawling back covered in internet shame. That's art. I laughed. Genuinely laughed. The kind that shakes loose the last of the poison still clinging to your ribs. After that, I didn't hear from either of them for a long time. But the silence didn't feel ominous anymore. It felt earned. I continued building my life. I applied for grad school, something I'd put off for years while Jason and I were focused on having a baby. I didn't even know if I wanted kids anymore, but I did know I wanted options. I wanted me back. I started therapy again. Real therapy. And I didn't just talk about Jason or my mother. I talked about how I'd been raised. About how my mother had always needed to be the center of attention. About how I'd spent years shrinking myself so she could feel bigger. I finally saw the full picture. Jason wasn't just a cheating husband. He was a mirror, a man who reflected the same kind of emotional manipulation I'd grown up with, who thrived when I was small, quiet, and loyal to a fault. I wasn't that woman anymore. The last message I ever got from my mother came 6 months later. A handwritten letter, forwarded through my old boss who she somehow tracked down. She begged for forgiveness. Said she had been going to church. Said she wanted to repair the bond between us. I didn't write back. I didn't read past the first paragraph. I shredded the letter and tossed it in the trash. Some people will read this and think I'm bitter. That I should let go. That family is family. But here's the truth. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. And betrayal doesn't deserve a reunion. I lost a husband and a mother in one blow, but what I gained was far more important. I got myself back. And no matter what happens next, they can never take that from me again. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.